Hello everyone, my name is Silkra, and welcome to Mystica Studios, and my journey from zero computer experience to full-time game development. Today's video is the first devlog for our upcoming project codenamed Dusk, which will likely be the first game we produce as a studio. While the plan is to continue to make multiple games over the years, this is one of the most likely projects to be chosen for our first proper game. So, what is Dusk? As I briefly alluded to in the previous video, this project will be like a blend of Blame, Portal, and Shadow Tower. In what I think will be quite the unique blend of genres, this will be a first-person puzzle shooter dungeon crawler. Isn't that a fucking mouthful? Throw survival horror in there too, honestly. To give a brief synopsis without spoiling much, the player will have to venture through the colossal temple complex, restoring light to portions of the temple in order to delve deeper towards the heart of the dungeon, uncovering the buried secrets that lay within the dark below. But where to start? Beginning with the first-person character, I alter the projectile's code for the starter content weapon to have a glowing look and produce light. With this, we have our tool to light the way through the dungeon. I also give the player character a slight glow to help with navigating the dark, but I'll end up tweaking even this placeholder version several times. I then created these really simple targets which when hit by the light begin to glow themselves, as well as a cubic variant to serve as placeholders. Right now, I'm using print strings seen up in the top left to indicate events like lighting lamps, or in this case, telling the player the dark is too heavy to advance any further, or these doors that when approached give a subtle hint to go somewhere else. After some more tweaking with player lighting, and feeling a little more confident coding, I quickly work up some dark splotches that dissipate when struck by the concentrated light, as well as illusionary walls, which for now I'm letting any type of contact player or light orb reveal them, along with these really simple elevator platforms. With these basic features, I've grown out a small set piece to demonstrate the idea behind the project, which has gradually grown in complexity over the past few days as I've experimented with coding. While this older footage lacks some of those features and details, I spend more time soaking in the setting. This is important because I think walking across the large open chasm or stepping into the massive chamber of support columns stretching far above and below does a better job of showing off the idea of scale that I'm really trying to chase with this project. In fact, scale is incredibly important, not just to this project, but to any potential future projects as well. In my previous video, I alluded to roughly 6 core principles that will inspire my games going forward. Scale is one of them. Scale is more than just pure size, however. While physical scale is a part of it, it's more nuanced than that. Scale is at its core all about recontextualizing the audience's view of their place within this world, and possibly even within their own. Be it through megastructures that dwarf us and make us feel insignificant, colossal beasts, or layers of strata from various ruined kingdoms built atop one another for millennia. Scale is about size, time span, and a whole bunch of other things all kind of wrapped up together. The ultimate point, though, is that it should make you feel small and like you'll never really know what's out there in the world. Because you won't. The 6 core principles that inspire my work all kind of overlap with each other and share some similarities. But really, they are just the best way for me to try to put to words what the real idea behind the stories I've always written is, I guess you could say. It would be very difficult to describe my time as a writer or what I've focused on writing the past 2 decades without giving pretty major spoilers for what I have planned, so I honestly don't know how to talk about it in most of these videos. Sometime soon, I think I would like to put together a video going over the history of the various things that inspired me to get into gaming, writing, and making games, because all three of those things are very interconnected and interpersonal with me, as well as, I guess, just sort of an about me as a developer video and what you can expect from me going forward, so I think I'll have that out shortly. Taking a break from that set piece level that I was working on before, I move into a new level within the same project file to do some experimenting with the modeling tools so that I can start creating levels a little bit more efficiently and on a larger scale. After so much time spent playing Minecraft, I assumed that a 2-block gap would be enough for the player to fit through, but as it turns out, the player's hitbox is actually a little bit bigger than that. So it's kind of weird adjusting to what the scale of Unreal Engine is when it comes to the player and creating geometry and stuff like that. These videos perform surprisingly well. My second video on this channel has more views than any video on my last channel, but it also kind of puts this added layer of pressure to produce content because I don't want to just leave people hanging, which kind of makes me feel worse sometimes about how slow the learning process is. But hopefully, I put out enough content to keep things interesting. Forcing myself to sit down and make some real progress, I spent what probably amounted to 2.5 hours trying to get a basic system going for interactions. This won't just be one interaction, this will be the rough blueprint that'll allow me to add interactions to all sorts of objects going forward. So while a pain in the ass to set up originally, it was definitely worth it, and the results kinda speak for themselves. You can see in this latest clip of development that when I walk up to the item and press the interact button, in this case I chose E, the item will disappear now. This works a lot better than just having items pick up whenever you walk near them. The only downside is, as you can see, without a crosshair, it's a little bit easy to aim in the wrong spot while trying to pick up an item. With the interaction system designed, our next task is to design the actual interactable objects that we'll be able to mess with or pick up throughout our journey. I'm thinking we'll start with the different collectibles and work on the survival horror resource management aspect of things first, as well as setting up an inventory, but there's a few other directions that we could take this to now. With a few more assets and some experimenting with the modeling tool, we'll finally be able to create an initial level to get a rough idea of what this project will look like outside of this little testing box that I've been messing around in for most of the footage. I'd like for this first level to be a sort of vertical slice of what the game would be like to play. Ideally, the pooled together assets will show off the various mechanics and playstyles, the horror aspects, the more puzzle based aspects, and try to find a good balance between them before we get too deep into development and are too late to go back. I'd also like for the first level to include both the narrow and tight sections that give you that oppressive atmosphere, and some of the wider open areas that make you awe at the size of the megastructure as you travel. Since right now I'm thinking that combat and puzzles will both use the same tool, we'll also have to find a way to balance the ammo management system so that it's not annoying to try to solve the puzzles and shit, but that you still have a reason to try to conserve whenever you're in combat. I'm thinking like some sort of place where you can go to recharge the gun, and then you can just find batteries to carry with you to use throughout combat and stuff like that. The gun isn't going to be your only method of interacting with light, however. It's just going to be your most reliable or more consistent way of moving light around the temple. There's going to be other ways to move it around, like kind of like pipeline systems and shit like that you have to realign to get the light to flow throughout the temple properly. So it's kind of like you're repairing the place as you delve deeper into it. The footage and mechanics that I have so far really don't do the idea justice compared to what it's really capable of, but I'm thinking once we get a few months into development, it'll be a really interesting picture to see. At this stage of learning Unreal, not all of my time or work is going directly into this specific project. Some of it is going into other projects or learning other things, but this is definitely going to be one of the main ones that we focus on for a while now going forward. This channel will be less about the specific development of this one project and more about my development as a developer over time, learning and evolving and getting better and refining the craft. And over time, the various projects that we work on will start to kind of trickle out into videos. On top of coding, sometime within the next few weeks, I'm going to undertake the process of learning Blender. I've never been good at any form of art other than building, so it's going to be very interesting trying to make digital art, but we'll see how that goes. It'll just be a necessary part of the journey if we're going to go from this to this. So, starting with a fresh level, I start sculpting out some of the rooms and hallways that we'll be able to explore, as well as building up a tower so that we can explore the level horizontally and vertically. The short time that I had spent messing around with it earlier was enough for me to kind of get the rhythm of things and start to feel a little bit more comfortable just messing around and seeing what I can cook up. While I didn't have one specific vision in mind for what this test level should look like I was saying earlier, I knew I wanted it to include these tight claustrophobic sections and these big wide open sections that give you that crazy sense of scale. So I already was focused on trying to make sure that once you go up that tower, you could wander into some large area. I also stopped for a second to set up the starting room where you'll initially get the gun for this level before you get to explore around, and I try to place a few things around intuitively in places that'll kind of encourage the player to shoot at them without me having to put like tutorial messages down at this point. Since I'm not sure how big I'll make this test level yet, I decided I wanted to focus on making it so as many of the things that you need to learn about the mechanics are taught to you as early as possible. So just this little starting section uses each of the assets that I've actually added to the project so far. In my next devlog, we'll finish out this area and start showing off the inventory system and everything like that. So if you enjoyed this video and want to see more, like, subscribe, and stay tuned for more content.